The job you're about to see has a fatality rate 80 times higher than the average American worker, and one slip on a 700-pound steel pot is enough to end a life in seconds. Yet every winter, men line up on the docks of Dutch Harbor, Alaska, begging for a shot at it. Because the money, when it comes in waves bigger than the ones trying to kill them. And this is every level of a crab fisherman's career, starting with Wyatt Calder, a 22-year-old kid from a small farming town in Idaho who has never seen the ocean in his life, standing on a wooden pier in 40-degree rain, holding a duffel bag and a phone number scribbled on the back of a gas station napkin, hoping a captain takes pity on him, because at level 1, you are a greenhorn, and a greenhorn earns no base wage, no salary, no guarantee of anything except blisters, bruises, and the very real possibility of not making it home. Only a 1% share of the catch if the captain decides at the end of the day. Season that you survived long enough to deserve it, and most don't, because the first 48 hours at sea are designed to break you. 20-hour shifts, frozen bait that smells like death, vomit running down the inside of your rain gear, veterans laughing as you crawl across the deck on your hands and knees, telling you to drink seawater for your stomach because they want to see you puke harder. And you learn very quickly that the ocean does not care who your father was, what sports you played in high school, or how tough you thought you were back home in Idaho. And if you survive that first stretch without quitting, without getting fired for being slow, and without being airlifted off the boat with a broken wrist or a concussion, you might just earn a second trip, and after one full season of bleeding into your gloves, you finally graduate to level 2, deckhand, a 1.5 to 2% share, somewhere between $15,000 and $30,000 for 60 days of work. That would put most men in a hospital. And Wyatt is now the one baiting pots with chopped herring and codfish at 3 in the morning. The one sorting live crab on a sloped steel table as the boat rolls 30 degrees and pots groan in their stacks above his head. The one learning to read the captain's silence, learning to anticipate the next wave before the wheelhouse calls it out, learning that the difference between a good season and a dead crewmate is often a single carabiner clipped to the right rail at the right moment. And after 2 or 3 seasons of this, his hands stop bleeding, his stomach stops turning, his eyes learn to focus through sleet at 2 a.m. And he reaches level 3, experienced deckhand, 3 to 5% of the catch, $50,000 to $80,000 a season. And now he's running the hydraulic block, hauling 700-pound pots out of the Bering Sea in 50-knot winds, stacking them 7 high on a deck coated in 2 inches of ice. And he understands something the greenhorns will never understand until it's too late, that the bright orange survival suit folded under his bunk is the only thing standing between him and a 4-minute death in 34-degree water, because hypothermia doesn't negotiate, and neither does a rogue wave at 2 a.m. that lifts a man clean off the deck and drops him into water so cold his muscles seize before he can scream. And Wyatt has now watched it happen, has now stood on a deck while the captain circled in the dark with a spotlight, has now helped pull a friend back over the rail with eyes already gone glassy. And he keeps fishing because the season is short and the quota is fixed and the money waits for no one. And by level 4, after years of proving he can fix what breaks before it kills someone, Wyatt becomes the engineer, 5 to 7% share, the man who keeps the diesel running while the boat punches through 40-foot swells, the man who crawls into a screaming engine room at 4 in the morning with a wrench in his teeth and grease in his eyes, because if the main goes down in this weather, the boat goes sideways. And sideways is how crab boats end up on the bottom of the Bering Sea with all hands lost. And the engineer is also the man who knows every weld on the hull, every valve in the bilge, every spare belt in the locker, and he sleeps less than anyone on board because the boat never stops needing him, and the next jump is the hardest one of his career. Level 5, Deck Boss, 7 to 10% share, over $100,000 a season in a good year. And now, Wyatt is not just surviving, he is commanding, calling out pot placement, reading the captain's plotter, watching the radar for ice and other boats, managing 4 men whose lives depend on his attention every single second they are on deck. And he is the one who decides when a crewman is too tired to keep working safely, the one who pulls a kid off the rail before the kid even knows he was about to be washed off, the one who calls a halt to the string when the wind shifts wrong. And a few captains in the fleet start to notice him by name, start mentioning him on the radio, start saving his number for the next season, because the next level only opens by invitation, and that level is level 6, Relief Captain, the man trusted to drive a $6 million vessel and $1 million quota while the actual captain sleeps 4 hours in his bunk, 4 hours years of total responsibility for 120 feet of steel in waters that have swallowed legends. And Wyatt is now standing in the wheelhouse alone at 3 in the morning, snow blowing sideways across the windows, radar painted thick with ice floes, autopilot off, hand on the throttle, and he is making decisions that he cannot afford to get wrong. Because one bad heading, one missed wave, 1 second of inattention, and 7 men he has known for years are gone. And if he holds the course, holds the crew, holds his nerve through 1 full season as relief, without putting a scratch on the boat or a man in the water, the door finally cracks open to level 7, captain and owner, 50% or more of every pound landed, $200,000 to over $1 million a single season in the best years, but only after he buys a vessel that costs more than most homes in America. Only after he buys quota that now trades on a market more expensive per pound than gold by weight. Only after he signs his name on insurance papers and bank loans and Coast Guard documents that remind him, in very small print, that the Bering Sea has buried better men than him and will keep doing it long after he is gone. And only after he hires a crew of his own, men who will look at him the way he once looked at the first captain who took a chance on a kid from Idaho. And on a gray October morning, a full decade after he stood on that pier with a duffel bag and a napkin and nothing else, Wyatt Calder unties his own boat from the dock at Dutch Harbor, walks the deck one last time to check every line and every hatch and every survival suit, climbs into the wheelhouse, looks down at a new greenhorn shivering on his deck in rain gear that doesn't fit, hands him a pair of insulated gloves without saying a word, fires up the deck diesel, and points the bow north toward the Bering Sea, because the ocean will say everything that needs to be said to that kid soon enough. And somewhere out past the breakwater, in water cold enough to kill a man in 4 minutes, a 700-pound steel pot is already waiting on the bottom, full of crab, full of money, and full of every reason men keep coming back to a job that has every reason to kill them.